Buckle up, everyone, and welcome to Carpool Rugby League, a show where two rugby league tragics talk everything rugby league on your way to and from work. I'm Shane.
And I'm the Chameleon.
Welcome aboard and on with the show. Yes, as you probably figured out, everyone, by now, there is no Graham, no music, no fanfare. Well, this is a meat and two veg episode of Carpool Rugby League. Graham is indisposed tonight. He's off doing some things he needs to do. So, Griffo, great to have you here. As always, brilliant to have a chat with you about rugby league. I suppose in a nutshell, what were your thoughts about last week's games, the two that we had that led now to what we now know are the Warriors and the Storm going through to play Penrith and the Broncos in the Grand Final decider?
Well, we'll start with the first game, which was Friday night. Storm at home v Roosters. I was watching that game thinking neither of these sides are really worrying me, as a Panthers fan.
Mm-hmm.
While I was watching the game, but I didn't think either side really were all that great. It was a close game. It was a good game. But I just thought it just lacked a little bit of quality. Oh, there was some good things done. My grab for the week is Will Warbrick with that last try. He did really well to really leap over the top of I think it was Junior Pogger. Pinpoint kick from Munster, and they won the game. It looked like the game was gone. Referee Klein, well, he had a couple of shockers. They all made mistakes. I don't want to crucify the man, but I did support the fact that out of that game, he's not refereeing this week, because I just think the errors that he made when he, there's only a handful of referees. He did his best, but the knock on was pretty blatant, as was the clip across Harry Grant's face.
I think, Griffo, for me, I was actually going to lead into this and talk a little bit about the refereeing and what's been made of it over the last week. I think for me, there's a lot of stuff going around about Ashley Klein and the bunker. I've got to be honest with you, Griffo. I believe that those two decisions should have been made on field. They would have been made pre-bunker days. I just think that I'd hate to think that refereeing's going to the point where we can have mediocre on-field decisions that get fixed up by the bunker. I actually felt that what happened to Klein, although unfortunate for him, I think fair, only because I feel that those two decisions should have been made on field. No bunker needed to intervene with those two decisions. I thought they were fairly straightforward and warranted both the knock-on and the penalty. Am I being too harsh?
Look, he's a good referee, Ashley Klein. Has been over a number of years, but I don't think he's the best referee at the moment. I think probably the King is probably right up there, King G.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's got one of the games this week.
Yes.
I heard that Jared Sutton might have the other.
Yeah.
Which I was a little bit surprised. I thought Grant Atkins, I think he's done enough good things this year to warrant that. But, it is what it is. I think King G, he's been consistent. He really impressed me earlier in the year when he overruled the bunker.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Penrith game. It could have been against the Storm, actually. And he sort of said to the bunker, he said, "Are you sure?" The bunker had a look at it again, went with King G. So, I don't want too much about refs.
G and
on the game, both teams gave everything they had. Really surprising start when Tyrone Wishart went straight through. I think he went past Brandon Smith. Brandon Smith, in saying that, was outstanding for the Roosters after that, as was his replacement, a very close relative, one would think, Sandon Smith. Sandon and Brandon, they both did a really good job for their Roosters. At the end of the day, they only scored 2 tries, and they had quite a bit of ball. Storm, they got there in the end. It looked like when Walker kicked that field goal, and we got down to not far from the end, that looked like the Roosters might hang on. But credit to Warbrick, credit to Munster. The Storm make another prelim. I mean, this is when you look, they only came into the competition in 1999 or 98, one of those years, and within a year or two they were premiers.
Yeah, 98.
But I don't think any other new team has had that sort of impact. And I mean, they've just been a successful operation. So. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this week's game shortly, but what did you think of that game,
look,
Shane?
I thought it was very interesting. I suppose the key thing for me, Griffo, when I was watching that game, when Walker kicked the field goal, I honestly thought with the possession and what they had, 6 points was what they needed, and to come away with 1 just didn't feel like enough. And then as the game sort of kept going, I thought, geez, hang on, this could be enough here. I thought the shot across Grant's beak was going to be worth 2.
Yep.
It wasn't, and then the subsequent try. I just felt like with all the possession that the Roosters had at the line, another try, a third try, probably would have put the nail in the coffin. Regardless of how much, regardless of being 1 point ahead, there was just some part of you that felt that it wasn't enough at some stage. Griffo, what was enough was 40 points for the Warriors against the Knights. Yeah. Very dominant.
That was disappointment, that game.
I was a bit the same. I agree with you. I was a bit the same. I thought this game, after watching Friday, I said to my daughter, I said, if that's tonight's game, what's tomorrow's? And then the first sort of 20 minutes blew it out the park by, they scored 3 tries in 11
12 minutes, I think, Shane.
Yeah, and it was just, after 20 minutes, they still didn't look right. Marju scored in the 24th, and you thought, something might happen here. But then it was just bang, bang, bang. And, yeah, it was really, I felt probably, after the 12th minute and Montoya scored, after in the 11th, I thought that was probably over.
It was so disappointing. I mean, they dropped the ball in the third play, and then
they never
Warriors,
got it back.
I think, with the first set of 6 might have scored. Dreadful defence out wide. Bradman Best on the first try. And Gamble, he had a miss somewhere, and Frizzell, it was just bad defence. They got it back to 16-10 not long after half time. You thought, well, there's a game on here, but it just was all one-way traffic. Warriors, credit to them. I don't think there would have been anyone who would have thought the Warriors are going to be playing a prelim this year, maybe apart from the Warriors themselves. But, I thought they were going to be closer to the bottom 4 than the top 4 to be, if you ask me at the start of the year. Obviously they rode the wave of emotion that was happening at what used to be called Mount Smart Stadium, whatever it's called these days. But they played smart.
It's, Go Media, I think it is. Go Media Stadium?
Yeah, something Media. Yeah. Go Media. Go Waz.
Yeah, go Waz.
But Newcastle did really well to make the 8, and they got a win in the first week. But if you look at their sort of 160 minutes or so, I think maybe they played, was it Golden Point that game against the Raiders?
Yes.
Yeah. So they played a lot of minutes, close to 170 minutes of rugby league. You think they might have played about 15 minutes of good rugby league and all that.
That's true. I think the fatigue of winning 10 in a row got to them. It's almost like every win's one more game to your next loss, and that was the fatigue of it. Griff, if you don't mind, before we go to previewing this week's games, some pretty stock standard results really in the Women's Rugby League over the weekend, which has led to the finals of the Women's Rugby League. Knights will play the Broncos, Roosters will play the Titans. Before we preview the NRL, I just want to talk a bit about Women's Rugby League. Where are you looking at these games being at? Knights, Broncos, that's a tougher game than what you think. When first plays fourth, you'd think to yourself, well, first must be light years ahead and fourth is where it's at. There's a part of me that says the Roosters finishing second against the Titans has probably come up with a better solution there. Women's Rugby League, the 2 games you see on the weekend, how do you see those playing out?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the team lists up. It's not quite as easy as what I hoped.
Do you want me to go?
Oh, here we are. NRL team lists. Here we go.
I can talk about the ins. Roach, Herden, Butler, and Liati for the Knights. Griffin, Larson, Coolwell, and Orchard for the Broncos. In saying all that, probably plays very little influence when you look at the 2 sides, 1 to 13. Tamika Upton for the Knights will be absolutely pivotal. And I think we said it for the last few weeks, Ali Brigginshaw, the captain for the Broncos, well, if she turns up, it could be an upset.
Oh, the Broncos are a chance.
Yeah.
So it's straight out 2 winners play the grand final.
It's isn't it bizarre?
Yeah, it is. We got 10-team comp.
Yeah, you think you'd have winner of
minor premiers.
I thought they might have done 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4. Winner of 1 versus 2 go through. Yeah. The loser of 3 versus 4 goes out. The loser of 1 versus 2 plays 3 versus 4 for a spot in the grand final. Yeah, very bizarre.
So where are they playing this game, Shane?
They are playing this game at McDonald Jones.
So it's a home game.
It's at McDonald Jones.
Home game. You think Newcastle fans will?
Oh, they should turn up. They should turn
up. Their team is a really enjoyable team to watch. With as you say, you've got Tamika Upton, Jesse Southwell. They're 2 of the very best players in the NRLW. They've got a strong forward pack, plenty of size. Hannah Southwell, she's just a defensive machine. She's like a lawnmower. Just everything gets cut down. Yasmin Clydesdale, Australian player. Caitlin Johnston, Predabond, and it's a good side. And you can bring off the bench. Higgins is a good hooker, and Anita Maynard comes on, gives her a rest. Robin Uke, she sort of Southwell look like with he's got the same headgear. Sometimes I'm not sure who it is, but they all play well. Pace in the backs. Jasmine Strange has been very good for them. Gallagher likewise. Parker Roach, Georgia Roach is back. I'm going to tip Newcastle. the Broncos, they've done well. They lost a few games early, but they sort of played all the top sides early in the comp.
Can I highlight someone for the Broncos, Griff?
With a number of wins.
Griff, the person for me for the Broncos is Melly Hufanga. She's had, I suppose, breakout season. 9 games, 10 tries. Really, they've got to get early ball into Hufanga's hands and just run.
Oh, she's a wrecking ball.
Yeah, on the centre, on the edge.
Yeah,
it's just get early ball and run.
And on the flip side of that, the Knights have got to be up on her quick. They can't give her any space.
That's right. Yeah, no, you've got to be up.
They've just got to be straight on her.
And that's where the centre and second rower really need to work hard.
Again, I've not seen too much of the Broncos.
Oh, she's been awesome.
I remember seeing Hufanga in the World Cup last year. She was outstanding in attack, but defensively, can be found out. So
I've watched a few of the Broncos games this year, and it is, to be fair to her, an area of a game. She's fixed up.
Okay, well, she's fixed up a defence.
It's that
she's very much the whole package.
Yeah.
And it's a big package. She's a unit. I would not like to have to tackle Mele Hufanga. I could not tackle her. She's just a machine. But yeah, the key is they have to get her before she's built up any momentum.
This season, 10 tries, 62 tackle breaks, 14 line breaks, 86.8% tackle efficiency. She's only missed 12 tackles all year. And made 79. She's really fixed that up. It's all right. She's a machine.
So yeah, they've got some firepower there with Selka, Julie Robinson. Broughton's very skillful, playing outside Brigginshaw. So they're not going to be easy beats, the Broncos. They're still a very good side. Tasman Gray is a very good second rower. Not my favourite player, mind you, but she's effective. She's very, very similar to her brother who plays for the Raiders. There's a bit of grub there. They play to win.
Yep.
And that's what you're out there for. You're not out there just to make friends. If you make friends, that's a bonus. But you're out there to win.
Yeah.
And she's got a lot of ability. Got to give her credit. I do favour Newcastle. It was a very close game when its two teams played earlier in the year. The Broncos, I think, had a good lead, and Newcastle sort of just got them just near the end of the game. Mm-hmm. Sunday, it's 2:05 p.m. Sunday, okay. I'll be up at my sister's place, so I might try and tune in though. 2:05. Who do you think wins here, Shane? I'm picking
the Broncos. I really think the Broncos probably staggered early and have warmed to this competition. I've got the Broncos in this one, Griffo. Who have you got?
Well, I'm sticking Knights.
Sorry, you said sorry. Yeah, and
I think they got the best player on the field, Tamika Upton.
True. Yeah, and you know what? Bit of a flip the coin for me, and I just thought there's a couple of guns for the Broncos. I'm thinking Brigginshaw is going to have an absolutely whale of a game. I think this is made for the superstars, and
she's a big game player, Shane.
Yeah, and that's why I picked the Broncos. At Allianz on Sunday is 4:15. Roosters versus the Titans. Few wins for both sides, but I think the big one to talk about, Millie Boyle for the Roosters in a prop, the meter eater that can really propel this team forward. It's interesting because for me, I think the Roosters are a better side, but geez, the Titans just turn up week in, week out and cause the upset when they need to cause the upset. It's going to be a very interesting game. I think that if there's one thing about the Titans is that they've been able to hold their 17 fairly strong, and they've been able to hold them in a way where they've had very little disruption. The Roosters, slightly different this year. They've had a few ins and outs, but probably have close to their best side on the field when it matters. The Roosters really have, when they've dominated, they've dominated. Probably the Roosters have been their own worst enemy. If there's one side that has capitalised on teams being their own worst enemy, it's the Titans. They're the surprise packet in some way of this competition. Griffo, what do you see here?
Yeah, the Titans had a really good year. As you say, they are probably a bit of a surprise packet with certainly some names that are well known, the likes of Lauren Brown, Jamie Chapman, Ivania Polite. Up front, they got Shannon Martel, Shirley Bent in the second row, Georgia Hale. Braylon Artie's been around for a few years, very skillful. But I don't think they're going to beat the Roosters. The Roosters side, they're not quite at full strength. Missing, ladies like Amber Hall and just Surges, maybe one or two others who've been ruled out. I think Shane and Burton. I think she got injured. She was out for the season as well. She was going well earlier. But they do not. I guess you can't worry about who's not there. You go worry about who is. Taryn Aiken, she's been amazing. Big off-season signing. I don't know how they do it, the Roosters, but if you're named like the top 5 players in the NRLW, they signed 2 of them.
Yeah.
In Taryn Aiken and Millie Boyle. In addition to the quality they already had. Strong forward pack. Aiken is just amazingly skillful. Isabel Kelly playing outside her. Jamie Fassad's been very good, and Corbin Baxter's a quality fullback. So I'm going to stick with the Roosters, Shane.
Yeah, I think the Roosters win. If I can give the Titans any hope, one of the players I think has played some very good football, Zara Canfield, this year has done some really good things in attack, really good tackles. I just think that, probably, she scored 2 tries this year from second row. I think where the Titans have gotten value, they've shifted the ball early, and it's been their second rowers that have really stood up and taken the ball. In saying that, I just look at the Roosters. I just think they're too classy. I think, for all the Titans and what they've done, I think the Roosters will have this one, and I think what we're going to see on the weekend is 2 very, very good games. One other good game we're going to see, I'm just going to mention it quickly, is the New South Wales Cup game. Now, Queensland Cup had theirs last week. New South Wales Cup, the North Sydney Bears versus South Sydney Rabbitohs. You'd almost be forgiven for thinking that it's some sort of bygone fanfare. It's an old school fixture. It's at Parramatta on Sunday. It's looking at it. I think looking at the teams that are playing and looking at who's playing, you really look at South Sydney. They've got a lot of the people that have played first grade in this side. Blake Taft back at fullback. I think South Sydney have this one. I hope they have this one. I'll be there on Sunday. I'm going to take the girls down to watch it. It doesn't help what the first grade side did, but it's very interesting from a South Sydney point of view that at the start of the year, the first grade side was singing, this side was failing. And throughout the year, as the first grade side started failing, this side started singing. So a big hats off to the coaching staff of the New South Wales Cup side, from my opinion, for what it's worth. But yeah, it's at 3:00. It's at Combank Stadium. The winner of this will play the winner who was last week. They hadn't won one. I think the Tigers. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting game for those that have some sort of vested interest. If you don't go for the Bears or the Rabbitohs, really, the Bears came first. Rabbitohs finished second this year. If you don't go for either of those sides, it bears very little interest on your rugby league interest. But for those that go for either of those two sides, it can provide some interesting viewpoints. But let's talk about the big game on Friday at 7:50 at Accor Stadium in Sydney. The Penrith Panthers will play the Melbourne Storm. Ins Isaac Tago, Jerome Luai, Luke Summerton, Matthew Eisenhuth, Tom Jenkins, with Jamin Salmon out. For the Storm, Chris Lewis is in, Jerome Hughes is in, Falogo is also in, and Maroa is also in. So what we have, and I think it's fair that we start talking about the players and the teams as they sit. Dylan Edwards and Nick Meaney at fullback, Taruva and Warbrick is the wingers, Isaac Tago, Seve for the Storm, Crichton and Olam, To'o and Smith, Luai in for Penrith, massive in for Penrith, up against the guy that really needs to have a big game for the Storm in Cameron Munster. Nathan Cleary for Penrith Panthers, who is proving why Penrith might do the three-peat. He has been the pivotal role in this, up against the return Jerome Hughes. Leota against Kamakamika. Kenny is hooking for the Panthers, and for the Storm, it's Grant. The props, one of the unsung heroes and someone who plays massive roles nearly every week, James Fisher-Harris, up against another guy for the Storm who plays massive weeks, Christian Welch. In the second row, Sorensen, Leoro, Liam Martin, Katoa, and who is the guy, if there's a guy in the rugby league you can set your watch by. I don't remember what the number was you used to call when the clocks in your house stopped, but it's Isaiah Yeo up against Josh King. On the interchange bench for Penrith, Cogger, Smith, Spencer Leniu and Luke Garner. For the Storm, Tyron Wishart, Tom Eisenhuth, Nelson Asafa Solomona and Tarek Sims. Griffo, I know you're pumped for this game. Please give us the synopsis. What's happening here?
In short, I think I've not really heard anyone tip Melbourne in this game.
That's not surprising.
No. And you're not going to hear me tip them either, but I do respect the Melbourne Storm. This is they've been the most successful club this century, and they make yet another prelim final. I did mention last week, watching both the Roosters and the Storm, that I didn't really think either side, sort of had me shaking in my boots. But the Storm are strengthened this week by Jerome Hughes returning, so he makes a massive difference. I think last time Penrith beat them really without too much trouble at Bluebet, but Hughes didn't play that night as well. So him coming back is big. It's the return of two Jeromes, both obviously with question marks. Hughes, I think it's a calf injury, only missed 1 week. Luai, had a dislocated shoulder. could go at any time, really. They've got the insurance policy, which I'm glad to see, and that is Jack Cogger sitting on the bench with number 14. So if something does happen, they can bring him out, and he's done a fabulous job replacing Jerome Luai recently and earlier in the Nathan Cleary. So got faith in Cogger. If Luai's shoulder holds up, well, Cogger will give Mitch Kenny a rest at some stage. So that gives me confidence. Melbourne Storm pack have been soundly criticised, mainly because people just expect better. And they're sort of saying, if Nelson's not out there, then nothing really happening from the forwards. Whether they take that on and try to prove people wrong, I don't know. They're just trying to win a game. They're quite a big side in the forwards, but they were completely outplayed by the Broncos forwards a couple of weeks ago, and at best they matched the Roosters forwards last week. They certainly did go over the top of them. Penrith, they've had the week's rest, which is a big bonus, I think. You could see both the Storm and Roosters at half-time. They were knackered. Both teams gave everything. That was half-time. So I don't think it's going to be quite as easy as some people are saying. I do think, I'm glad to see Tango back, assuming he's fit. Likewise, Luai, but the forwards, that's the best pack they can put on the park. And they got, talent coming off the bench. Lindsay Smith, who's just re-signed an extension, he's been outstanding this year. He played the odd game before this year, but it was never consistent. It was just in 1 week, sort of not there the next. He's now a consistent first grader. Lemieux, we know that he's a wrecking ball, and he's only got potentially 2 games left in a Panthers jersey. Garner was really good when he replaced Tango last week, so he gets the nod ahead of Hosking. The Storm, they have 3 of the, I would say 4 of the best players in the league, with Munster, Jerome Hughes, Harry Grant, and Big Nelson. So you can never write off a Storm side when those guys are out there. I'm going Penrith. I just think Nathan Cleary will lead them to victory. I hope that's the case. I'll be out there. And it's one of those times where, you're just sort of expecting to win. So I don't always work that way. Last year, I remember actually seeing you before the equivalent game, the prelim there. It was one of those games where I sort of thought we'd probably win, but I wasn't sure. This game, I'm probably more confident in the victory than in last year's prelim when they played the Rabbitohs. Shane,
I've got Penrith. I will say I've said it all year. I think the Storm just don't have the venom. One thing about the Storm side that looking at it, I just think that when I look at the Storm side, I know this isn't the final team. I know that's got to come through. I think I'd rather see Bronson Garlick in for Taron Wishart and just take the chance that Jerome Hughes is fit. They're going to need something on the bench. The Penrith bench is very good, and that's when they take off who's starting. I think this game. And I doubt this will happen, but if we're talking next week about a Storm Grand Final, it's going to be won on the back of whatever Bellamy can conjure up. This is going to be a coach's. I say it quite frequently that 25% of the year, the coach wins the game. Like the players win most of the games. They go out and do their thing. There is quite often these 25% times where they throw a trick shot, they throw something at the opposition, they tell the team to do something, and the team has the belief that in the coach to do it, and that's Bellamy, and that's if there's any chance he's got to conjure up something, and I think Wishart returning to the reserves and bringing Garlic up, I think that's what's got to happen. I think they just need something else there. Penrith are just this juggernaut that just keep on giving. You know, I can't believe halfway through the year people honestly thought that there was an issue. They've got Jerome Luai back. Not too sure how fit he is. But they're not idiots. Like they know that next week's there's bigger fish to fry, so they wouldn't be playing him unless he was fine. Maybe even a late withdrawal, who knows? But at the very least, you know he's close, and if they're grand final bound, he'll be there. I just think that this is probably the game, and no disrespect to people like Wayne Bennett. I don't mean this in the slightest, but I think if you look at the quality of players and the quality of coaches, at the moment, these are the two sides where if you look at coaching and playing, this is it. Like this is where both the coaching and playing matter. And this is the game, I think, where the coaches will play a significant role. You'll see some things out of left field. I've got Penrith winning this one. There's a guy called Nathan Cleary who's just been... I think he's had a phenomenal 5 years, and he's stamping his mark in the forever category, where he is going to be forever known as one of the greatest halfbacks. In Penrith law, he's in the same sentence as Greg Alexander and Gower. He's not only in that, he's now in one of the greatest halfbacks that we've seen in a long time. His kicking game is outstanding. The way he plays the ball, the way he sees the game is just second to none. So I've got the Panthers winning this one. In what, to be fair, I don't think will be a very close affair. I actually think they're going to win pretty well. At Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane on Saturday night, 7:50, we have the Brisbane Broncos, who have... I suppose we've got the two surprise packets of this competition, which is the Brisbane Broncos, who finished second, versus the New Zealand Warriors, who finished fourth. The Wars, yes, the system works. 1, 2, 3, 4 are in the finals. And let's go through the teams. At fullback for the Broncos is Reece Walsh. For the Warriors is Nickel Clockstud. The wingers for the Broncos are Jesse Arthurs and Selwyn Cobbo. For the Warriors is Dallin Selesniak, DWZ, and Marcelo Montoya on the other side for the centres. In what I think is probably one of the best centre pairings in the competition, Katoni Staggs and Herbie Farnworth up against Rocco Berry and Adam Pompey. The halves for the Broncos is Ezra Mam and Adam Reynolds, who has been phenomenal for the Broncos. Terry Martin for the Warriors. Sean Johnson, who was outstanding last week for the Warriors. The forwards, the bookends for the Broncos, Thomas Flegler and Payne Haas. Fanua Blake for the Warriors and Mitchell Barnett. In at the hooker, Billy Waters for the Broncos and Wade Egan for the Warriors. The Broncos second rowers, Kurt Capewell, Jordan Ricky. The Warriors, Jackson Ford, Nikore for the Warriors. Carrigan and Tohu Harris is for the Warriors. Two players, I think, who are being pivotal for their clubs, and yet again, just stamping what I want to start happening in 2024, that if you're going to talk about the spine, you have to talk about the lock. Interchange bench for the two sides. Smoothie for the Broncos in number 14. Piakura for number 15. Hetherington, 16. Palacia, 17 for the Broncos. Dylan Walker, Tavanga, Sirinen, and Josh Curran, who's a bit of a fan favourite for the Warriors. It looks like I think they're probably going to run out 1-17, both these sides. This is a big game for both of them, looking at where they've come from. Griffo, how do you see this one going?
Both these teams were not in the 8 last year. Actually, just one thing to be mentioned, corresponding round last year, only Penrith actually made the 8 from those 4 teams that played the prelim finals. Para, Rabbitohs and Cowboys not making the 8, which is sort of unheard of, really, that from one year to the next, that's sort of a change. And the Broncos and the Warriors are two of the teams that stepped up this year. I saw the Broncos in round 1, and I was really impressed when they beat Penrith with no Reece Walsh. And they've been pretty impressive all year. They've had a couple of losses, but not too many. Much more consistent. They've got firepower more than any other team, I think, in the NRL. And I do believe that firepower will get them across the line in this game. The Warriors have been phenomenal to make it as far as they have. And you can be sure that they'll have a lot of support up at Suncorp. There's a lot of New Zealanders in Australia, including in Brisbane. They always get good support there. But you'd imagine maybe there'd be some Kiwis coming over from New Zealand. So I think obviously it's going to be a pro-Broncos crowd overall, but there'll be plenty of support for the Warriors. This team has pretty much played to the best of their ability this year. Johnson, as you mentioned, he's been outstanding. Shans Nickel-Klokstad, DWZ. I've never been a huge fan of DWZ, but he is playing the best football of his career.
Most definitely, yeah, to be fair.
And you've got to give the guy credit. And he's been amazing. I think it's got something to do with the hair and the mole. When he was clean cut, he never played that well. So maybe there's something in that. They've got Adin Fanua Blake, who's he's sort of touted as, probably the number one prop, maybe behind Payne Haas. If he can lead his team to victory here, you've got to have him as the best prop in the game. If he can get his team across the line. Wade Egan's been a revelation this year. He's always had ability. He came through the Penrith system. Very skillful hooker. Had problems with injuries, and then couldn't get a consistent spot in the Panthers. There was also Sione Katoa there, and they both made way for Appy. And obviously Penrith pulled the right rein because Appy played a grand final and then won 2 grand finals. So
it's almost like with Egan. It's almost like with Egan. He just needed a year. It was like he just needed that time to gel with everyone. And now that he's gelled, it's been pretty good.
No, he's always been a really good player, but now he's getting the performance in the NRL. They've got Big Tofu Harris. Nia Corey's been really a massive, as has Jackson Ford. Those 2 second rowers were not at the Warriors last year. Dylan Walker's off the bench. He's been very good. This is a good side, but I think the Broncos have the potential to be a great side. I'm going to back. Well, I want to see the Warriors win. I'd love to see the Warriors win. But a team that boasts Reece Walsh, Katoni Staggs, Herbie Farmworth, Selwyn Cobbo, Ezra Mam, and those guys are being marshalled around the field by a highly experienced and knowledgeable Adam Reynolds. That backline is it's full of bullets. Not to, Jesse Arthurs has been really good this year. The forward pack, when you got Flegler, you got Arse up front, you got Pat Carrigan, there's plenty of go forward there. Ricky is having his best year. Kurt Capewell, we know he's an experienced player. And Billy Walters is, again, he's had his best year. They've got a good bench. I don't think it's an outstanding bench, but it's they're quite capable. But it's 1 to 13 really, where I think the Broncos have it over the Warriors. I think the Warriors actually, maybe their bench is slightly better with Dylan Walker, who's been in great form for them. I'm tipping the Broncos because I think they've got too many guns, but I'd love to see the Warriors win. Shane?
Yeah, I'm with you, Griffo. I'm glad you mentioned Dylan Walker. I actually think that if the Warriors can get in the grind with this team and just get into a battle, Dylan Walker, this game is made for Dylan Walker. Like he can come off the bench and just be electric. I think this is going to be an exceptionally close game. I think this is going to go down to the wire. I've seen this man, I've seen him kick field goals. When the 2-point field goal came in, he kicked the very first one. I've seen him kick brilliantly. I remember once upon a time in the game, he was an inch away from kicking a 40-20, which could have potentially given South Sydney the win.
That game might have been grand final game.
It was the grand final qualifier against you guys. Adam Reynolds is phenomenal. And there's times where in preliminary finals he hasn't fired. And there's times where he needed other to fire. I think the difference is, and this is probably going to slightly hurt me to say this, I think the troops he has around him now are probably some of the best since he played in 2014. And in that 2014 South Sydney side, there were some pretty phenomenal players. That's why I think if he can play his game, the Broncos will win this. If he goes away from it, which I've seen him do, where he tries to run the ball, where he does kicks that aren't quite on point, the Warriors will get an open door, which you do not want Sean Johnson to have. This is going to be an exceptionally tight game. Reece Walsh has to keep his head. Jeez. I've changed my mind about 5 times. I'm going to tip the Broncos in a nail biter. what I saw last week was a bounce back from the Warriors that I thought was very controlled. Their defence was exceptional. I think they've built one of the best forward packs in the game, which is saying something. So, yeah, I've got the Broncos without much confidence, but in a tight one.
All right. So, like most of the pundits,
I think so.
It's Panthers Broncos Grand Final, according to us.
I think so.
And pretty much anyone else who's tipped these games.
I think it's tough. I think it's tough to tip against. I thought the big thing for me, Griffo, I don't think the Storm have lost the venom. They've limped into and through this final series. Like, good on them. They've won. Like, I'm not having a go. But for me, I thought the first week the Warriors played the Panthers. I know they didn't have Sean Johnson and, but geez, there was some mistakes that just riddled their game. I suppose the two teams that you can set your watch by at the moment are Penrith and the Broncos. So, yeah, that's it.
All right.
Well, listeners.
So we're looking at Panthers, Broncos in the NRL. And I'm thinking Knights, Roosters. You're saying Broncos, Roosters.
Broncos, Roosters, and South to beat the Brisbane.
Oh, of course.
The Bears. Sorry,
I did find those team lists. South's got a lot of players that were playing NRL.
They're stacked.
At the end of the year, whereas the Roosters looked like it was Terrell May. I think he was the only. Oh, sorry, the Bears.
Yeah, they're stacked. South. So
South. Yeah, if they don't win that game,
they're in trouble. Well, it'd just be par for the course, really, to go to Parramatta on the weekend and watch them underperform. That's really what they've done lately. So,
well, I think those guys that are playing, that did play NRL, they weren't they weren't the underperformers.
They weren't the underperformers. That's very true. That's very true. All right, listeners, that's our picks for this week. We hope you have a fantastic week. It's again going to be very interesting. We are 1 weekend away from the Rugby-League Grand Final and ascertaining many things. Will the Warriors do their dream run? Will the Storm do what the Storm do? Will the Broncos lift the hearts of Queenslanders once again, or will this team called the Penrith Panthers win 3 in a row and really cement themselves into rugby league folklore? We've got 1 week ahead of us to talk about next week. Griffo, as always, a pleasure to chat rugby league with you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, listeners. Next week, we should be back with the bells and whistles.
Hopefully, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone. Bye now.
Bye-bye.